Hello everyone, today we have on a very special guest, Mr. Paul Tilley. He's a business owner in Galax and also an ultramarathon runner. Mr. Tilley, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing really good. I can speak for both me and Ethan. We're extremely excited to have you on.
Okay.
We've had some interaction with you before. I've ran a few races with you and seen you around town, but I never really knew who you were. And Ethan, you've ran in a few of his courses, right?
Froggy Mountain, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have a question that we start all of our interviews with, and that's, where did you grow up?
Where did I grow up? Well, I was born in Beckley, West Virginia.
Okay.
I think we left that area when I was like 4 years old. And then we moved a couple different places in southern West Virginia and ended up spending most of my formative years growing up in the town of Grantsville, West Virginia.
Okay.
More north central West Virginia. And then stayed there till I was 19, left and went to Mississippi for about a year. Came back to Virginia for quite a while. And then spent 4 years in Fort Myers, Florida, and now I'm back in Galax for the last 7 years. So yeah.
So where did you graduate high school from?
I was homeschooled.
Homeschool.
Okay.
Yep.
What did you do after you graduated from homeschooling?
Well, the last 2 years of my homeschooling, I went to work full-time on a sawmill, stacking lumber. So kind of went from that straight into just blue-collar work.
Did you have any formative experiences while working your first job that made you think you want to do this for the rest of your life, or made you think you want to do something else?
That's a good question. Yeah, early on working, it was more of just, I was raised, blue collar work style. So honestly, for me, going to college and stuff never really crossed my mind because my dad was a hard worker. We were raised poor in southern West Virginia, coal mine country, And so no, I just went to work stacking lumber, and really at that time just kind of figured I would do that kind of work for the rest of my life, honestly.
Yeah, that's good.
Would you recommend homeschooling to people?
I think it has pros and cons just like everything.
Yeah.
I think the pros of it is the fact that if you have, like my mother was a very dedicated and very good teacher, and she spent time and she made us do it like a regular school. We came in, we sat down at 8 in the morning, we did our schoolwork, and when we did it till we were done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There were no fooling around, none of that stuff. We were able to take off days that would be more important to us than, say, a holiday at a school. So there was a lot of pros to it, but I think the cons is also you don't have a lot of social interaction and stuff with other kids and stuff growing up.
Yeah, that makes sense. So after you worked at the sawmill, where did you go?
Well, let's see here. I left the sawmill and went to tractor-trailer truck driving school. At that time, I was 19, so it was very hard to get a job driving tractor-trailer when you couldn't leave the state. So I ended up I worked a while for a hardware store driving a local delivery truck, and then at that time, we kind of moved and went to Mississippi, and I spent a year running heavy equipment, loading trucks, gravel. I was running the front end loader in a rock quarry.
So you mentioned not being able to leave the state. Is there a regulation that prohibits you from leaving the state
Yes.
at 19?
When you have a commercial driver's license, you can drive in the state that, if this is still the same as it was back then, and that was over 20 years ago, so I'm not 100% sure on this, but back then, you could get your CDL when you were 18.
Okay.
But you could not leave the state that issued it until you were 21.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
So what made you want to get your CDL in the first place?
That was one of those things I always wanted to do. I always wanted to drive a truck.
Yeah.
So there was a what would you say, a romantic side to truck driving that you see from a distance, but it's not there in real life. But it was a fun experience that I got to drive and got to see a lot of the country and get paid for it. And I only spent, actually I think it's a little less than a year driving cross country, but in that time I really enjoyed it.
Did you have a partner you drove with?
No, I actually went to truck driving school and got my license, and then I got that job when I turned 21, so it was a couple years later. And it was for a place in Mount Airy, actually. I drove out of Mount Airy at that time. The Spencer's, the old Spencer's clothing factory down there.
Okay.
And they actually put a guy with me for like 1 week.
Yeah.
And then sent me off on my own to like Atlanta solo on my first only a weekend of driving. That's a tale within itself. But yeah, fun times.
Is it lonely on the road?
It can get very lonely. Absolutely. Yeah. But now I think that these days with phones, it changes everything because you can talk all the time. You can sit there and talk to whoever you want to while you drive, and I did a lot of that.
Yeah. Were there any scary experiences you had?
Yes. I mean, honestly, one of the reasons I'm glad I don't drive today is because everybody else. Because you can be as good a driver as you want to, but you cannot predict what everybody else is going to do. And yeah, I've absolutely had some experiences early on. I was coming through Houston, and it was like 5 lanes, and there was a Pepsi truck up, and I don't know what happened, but he got turned around in front of me, and literally, I mean, the cars are hitting him, and I'm locked up and sliding as I go by him, and I didn't touch nothing, but yeah. You find the first rest area, and you pull over, and you get out for a while. Yeah, it's a scary job at times.
Is it hard to get back behind the wheel after something like that?
It wasn't for me. I'd say for some people it is. Now, it probably depends on how bad
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
exactly.
Yeah.
The right thing can make it very hard to get behind the wheel again.
That's true. Yeah.
Did they have the same regulations on how far and long drivers could drive in one stretch at that time? Or could y'all bear on?
Well, they were definitely laws regarding how long you could drive at a time, but that has changed. The length of time we could drive back then, I'm thinking we were on for like 12 hours, had to take some kind of break. But the difference was back then we had paper log books. Everything that we did, we wrote down by hand. And at the time, it was loose leaf. So if you needed that day to disappear, you just pulled it out and got rid of it. And then you could drive more. I mean, it was literally how truck drivers did back then. They drove nonstop, and they wrote the lie as they went. And now everything's electronic. And when that truck's moving, it's being electronically recorded, and it's very hard to cheat the system like they used to, which is good because it's definitely improved driver safety. When you're driving for 24 hours with no sleep, I mean, it's dangerous.
Was there a camaraderie between the drivers?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because my great-grandfather was a truck driver for many years and talked about that, driving with different people and seeing the country and just helping each other out on the road a lot.
Yeah.
So after driving, you decided to stop driving trucks.
Correct.
And you started driving heavy machinery?
Yeah. I left there. I had worked a short time at a rock quarry before driving, fooled around a little with heavy equipment. So after I left driving, I went back to the quarry, running equipment, running rock crushers, that kind of thing. I stayed there for a couple more years. And then I ended up leaving there and going where I work now, a place in Galax that we produce hardwood flooring. Okay. And I stayed there for like 10 years, left there, went to Florida. But then when I left Florida, it was to come back and go back to work at the same place. They called me and asked me if I'd come back. So
where's the hardwood place?
It's Terman Hardwood Flooring over in West Galax.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
And then you mentioned you went to Florida.
Yes.
Why'd you go to Florida?
Well, at the time, my wife's grandparents and all, well, her family, my wife's family lives down there. And it was just at a point in their life where they could use some assistance, and we kind of was looking for a change as well. So it was good just to go down there and be with them and help them at the time. And yeah, that's pretty much the whole reason we went, just to change the scenery and to help out her family.
Were you near the coast?
Yes, we were right in Fort Myers.
Fort Myers, yeah.
Yep.
What did you do down there?
When I went, strangely enough, at the time, my wife had a job that she was able to transfer. She was working for a bank at the time, so she was able to transfer. So I was like, well, we've got one income, we've got a place to live. I'm going to quit my job and go down there and see what I can find. Yeah. And so I went down and immediately just went to Craigslist just to see what I could find immediately for this day I got down there. And a guy was needing a carpenter helper. And I went, I called him, went to work like the next day. And me and him became good friends. And I stayed with him probably a month or so working, not long, because he couldn't afford to pay me that much, and I needed better work. Yeah. So I had put in a application to work underground utilities, and so I got hired to do that, which was, I mean, crazy work. You was on call 24 hours a day. If the water line broke, you was working on the highway, not just 8 hours, but maybe 32 hours or however long until everybody got their water back. You know, it was
32 hours.
I mean, I did one shift was 32 hours down there one time. Yeah, and this was in the course of like maybe I worked for them 2 months or something because I put in. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Did y'all like sleep during that time, or was it
not
constant?
that shift? No. No, we were laying in culverts under the highway and everything else, pouring concrete and working.
Was that because of an accident
yeah, disaster? A big water main had broke, and so we had to get the city's water supply back up. But my wife, she was not very thrilled with me working there. You know, she kept thinking I wouldn't even come home. You know, be dead or something. So I had applied to work for a company that installs garage doors, and in the end, I ended up going to work for them, doing installing commercial garage doors, and also did a lot of property maintenance work while I was down there. Yeah.
We know now that you're a business owner.
Yes.
Is that something you've wanted to do? Start your own business and being, this term is overused nowadays, but an entrepreneur? Is that something you've always wanted to do?
Yes, it's always been kind of in the back of my mind to want to do something like that. Now, it wasn't really the plan when it happened. It kind of fell into my lap as far as, here's the opportunity, you got to jump now. It was like, you know, it wasn't something that I'd sat long and hard and thought about to try to build. It was just, hey, this company is closing. Do you want to buy it? And so we jumped in and bought it.
Yeah. So your business partner, I forget his name.
Rick?
Yeah, Rick.
Yes.
Is it Tassel?
Oh, that's Rob. There's
Rob.
two.
Okay. Yeah. So can you tell us a bit about your business partners?
Yes. Rob, I got to know him more when I moved back, so I've known him for probably about the last 6 years, I would say. Rob, he's a really good dude. He owns Phoenix Graphics in Galax. And he also is runs a lot of Spartan races, ultras, stuff of that nature. Yeah. I met him at the Matthews State Forest Trail Run, I believe is where I met him. And that was probably about 5-6 years ago. And then Rick, he owns the Galax Extreme Fitness. And then he also does a lot of work at Power Up, and he does a lot of the Ninja events and the Spartan events and all that type of stuff. And just really good people, and we've all got that connection, of course, from running and racing, and it was just the perfect idea to just go ahead and get into an outfitter business together.
Yeah. So you mentioned the opportunity fell into your lap.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's the way I would put it. I think, I'm not sure which one contacted me first, if it was Rick or Rob. One of them contacted me, though, and said, hey, basically, we've got this opportunity to purchase this outfitter. And basically, if we want it, we've got to do it now. Yeah. Are you interested in going in with us? And I don't even think, I think I talked to my wife that evening, but pretty much we were just like, yeah, let's do it. So it was one of them spur of the moment decisions for sure.
Can you tell us a bit about your business and what you do and services?
Yes. So the business is New River Trail Outfitters. We're small and we're growing. Right now we provide bike rentals, both mountain bikes, gravel bikes, e-bikes. We also sell e-bikes. We provide shuttles. If you need shuttled up to Pulaski and dropped off to ride back to Galax, whatever you want to do, we'll make it happen. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then we also carry some running gear. We have Orange Mud brand stuff, from hydration packs and shorts and technical shirts and stuff of that nature. I want to expand more into more camping gear, more backpacking gear, more outfitter gear. But right now, of course, we got like T-shirts and stuff and hoodies and stuff that all good outfitters should have. But we definitely want to grow more still. But at the moment, we're more focused on the rental bikes and running, because I feel that Galax is a very strong running community. It's amazing to me how many runners are living in Galax. So I definitely want to provide that service. I'd like to soon start carrying running shoes. That's my goal next.
you think that's really been fostered around the New River Trail, creating those runners?
I believe it's definitely had a good part in that. If you look back, the New River Trail 50K started back in 2010, 2012. It's been going on for, and I mean, ultras in and of themselves hasn't really been in this area, but to have one right there in Galax that's been there for already 10 years or something, that says a lot for the community. That says a lot that there's a lot of runners in town.
And then there's the Try Challenge as well.
Yes.
How long has that been going on?
I don't know. I haven't participated in that one. I've always wanted to, but it always falls on the wrong weekend for me.
Me too.
So, but it's been around a long time.
And it's kayaking, biking, and running. Right?
Yes.
It's not swimming.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I think you talked about doing it one year.
Yeah, but it falls on the same weekend as a cross-country race.
Yeah.
So.
Is it Knights Crossing?
It's Knights
That's
Crossing,
weekend. So y'all do provide shuttle services up to Pulaski.
Yes.
That's a problem me and Ethan's had for
because
a while.
we did a 70-mile bike ride on the trail, and we started in Galax, and we had to come get my mom to pick us up in Pulaski.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and we do. That's probably my number one request is picking people up from Pulaski, or taking them from Galax and dropping them in Pulaski and letting them ride back to Galax, or vice versa. But yeah, a lot of people want to ride the whole trail, so the shuttle service has been, it's been good.
Yeah.
And that's a good day's ride too.
It is.
It's pretty.
It took us 7 hours, 8 hours.
No, 6 hours.
Well,
6, 7 hours. Actual moving
stopping
time.
and getting lunch.
Yeah, we stopped at some restaurants and looked around. It was a nice day.
You've got to do a little bit of that.
Yeah, and freeze. And,
Yeah.
But
I rode it one time from Galax to, in reality, Draper. I didn't quite make it all the way to Door Junction. I was not prepared for what that ride was going to do to me. It killed me.
After a while, the trail, everything just looks the same when you get towards the end.
It does.
It almost seems like you're in a bubble.
Right.
What's going on with I want to ask you this. What's going on with the trail in Galax right now? I know they're closed.
They are repairing some trussels. And right now, the first 2 bridges, which basically lie within the first half mile of the trail, but they've got it closed for the first 2 miles because they're rebuilding those bridges. I'm not sure exactly when they're going to reopen. I've been told the end of this month.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But anybody that's been renting from us and not having a bike rack, we've just been taking them up to Cliffview and dropping them off and picking them up. So.
Are they going to start repairing the bridges on down the trail too?
I think they are, from what I understand. And I don't know how that's going to affect us. Hopefully they'll decide to do it in the wintertime.
Because me and Ethan were talking about doing the whole trail again, but I said if we can't just start it,
you don't want to miss a little piece of it. You want to be able to get it all.
Because that's going to be nagging me the whole
I know,
time.
it would me too.
You can't finish it.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mentioned canoeing in the Try Challenge, and kayaking. I mean, have you thought about providing kayaking or canoeing services for the trail?
I'd love to eventually. At the moment, the New River Outdoor Adventures has definitely been taking the reign on that in this area, and I'm not in no place to do it right now, and I'm happy that they're providing that service. But someday, if there's an opportunity there, I would love to do it as well.
Is there a community of kayakers or canoers in the area?
There seems to be.
Okay.
Me personally, I have kayaked a decent amount of it, but I don't really consider myself even a kayaker. It's something that I may do once a year.
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't even trust myself enough yet to go taking people down the river,
Yeah, that makes sense.
But, and I think we wanted to also kind of reach into your athletic side. Were you athletic as a younger man too? Like in high, you were homeschooled, but when you're in your
teenage years,
were you very athletic? Or?
No. Now, was I outdoors? Yes. I wasn't. Never one just to be like the kid that stayed inside and didn't do nothing. I was outside. We was raised in the country. We played in the woods growing up, but the running and all that stuff, no. And in school, none of that, no. I got into backpacking first.
Yeah.
And that would have been probably mid-20s.
Okay. What got you into backpacking in the first place?
Me and my brother, and actually my 2 brother-in-laws, for some reason we decided to climb Mount Rogers. To hike it, to do a day hike. we talked about it. We'd realized the highest point in Virginia was fairly close to where we lived. So we're like, we should go do that, you know? So we got up one morning and we did it, and it like to killed us, to be honest. I think everybody there suffered, and it was only like 8 miles up and back, but it like to killed everybody. But you know, I went up through there and I see all these little bitty tents with one man in them. And I'm like, I never realized people really did this for fun. Yeah. I know that sounds crazy, but I mean, like when I went into the woods, I was carrying a high-powered rifle because I was deer hunting. You know what I mean? I didn't know anything else. I didn't know people went to the mountains just to hike and camp and have a good time, you know? And I was like, man, this looks like fun. So literally, as soon as we got done with the day hike and went back home, we were ordering gear and everything else. And like within a week or two, we were up there camping, which, Lord, that was a mess within itself, learning how to do it, what to take and what not to take, and not to carry 50 pounds in the woods, you know. It was.
Are you familiar with rucking?
Yes.
Do you ruck much?
I don't, but absolutely,
It looks fun. I haven't tried it, but I know a lot of people use it to train for like longer events.
Right.
And like even some Spartan races, because I think you have to carry things in some of the races.
Yeah.
And I've heard it's a good training tool, but I've never tried it, and I wonder if you have.
It would probably be a very good training tool, really, because I think the one thing that gave me an advantage in long distance races was carrying 20, 30, 40 pounds on my back for a week at a time, you know. Yeah. I think the base that it gave me was excellent, you know. Maybe not for sprinting, but for long distance, for sure.
Yeah. So you did longer trips too?
Yeah, I would go. I never did a through hike or something of that nature, but me and my brother would take weeks off at a time and go for a week and do the Appalachian Trail and stuff like that.
Have you ever thought about doing a full through hike of the trail?
Absolutely.
Do you plan on doing it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know when.
Yeah.
I don't know when. Maybe when I retire, but yeah. I said I run and everything like I do now so I can stay in shape for when I retire. I can still do it.
Yeah, that's good.
So now when you were camping, did you do open air camping or did you bring a tent?
I've did both. Yeah.
I've been really interested here lately in open air camping.
It's the best, really. Me and my brother one time took a tarp and went, we took our packs with our clothes and stuff, but we didn't take no tents and stuff of that nature. Yeah. We just took a tarp. And we went down into Linville Gorge, if you know where that's at. Mm-mm. It's over in southwest North Carolina, out in the Pisgah National Forest area. I mean, it's in some beautiful country out there, but it's just a very remote wilderness area with a river that runs down between some really steep gorges. But we hiked down in there, and we got way off the trail and stuff where nobody would really find us. Mm-hmm. And we built basically a primitive little A-frame and then put the tarp over it and built the bed out of twigs and leaves. Wow. And spent a whole week down there just fishing in the stream, and just all we took to eat was like a pound of rice and a pound of beans, and then we'd just fish, and whatever we could catch we'd cook.
That's
and
awesome.
It was probably one of the most fun experiences of my life.
Yeah.
Nowadays there are a lot of YouTube channels, like Primitive Technologies one, where people go out into nature and then build things from scratch. Mm-hmm. Is that something you're interested in?
Yes, I definitely have interest. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't get the time to do that kind of stuff like I want to. It's man, I want to do all these things, but time to do it is something else. Yeah.
Have you heard of John Muir before?
Yes.
He's one of the founders of the National Park Service.
Yes.
Big outdoorsman.
Absolutely.
And I've been reading his works here lately, his journal entries, and he would just stop under a tree and camp for the night. He would go out, and he wouldn't bring anything really with him except some bread and water.
Yep.
But he was able to survive and find his way.
Absolutely.
But that's really gotten me into wanting to try open air.
You should. You'll begin to realize the more you do, the less you need.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of the things that everyone really thinks they need, you don't need out there. You can go with so little. And it's also more rewarding. The less you take, the more rewarding it seems being out there is. Yeah. Because you're not distracted by anything. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like all the people wanting to take their technology and they're dying for cell phone service, and they're taking their charging stations and all this stuff. That's not what I go in the woods for. I go in the woods to get rid of all that, to get away from all that, you know?
Yeah. Do you ever take a book into the woods with you?
I have. I don't read as much these days as I wish I did.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'll take a book and never touch it, and I wish I did, but I'm like, man, I just lost in the beauty of just sitting up there and meditating, you know.
Absolutely.
You mentioned not wanting to take technology into the woods. Do you for safety purposes, or?
I've normally got my phones on me somewhere, but most times it's turned off or on airplane mode or something. If there's a signal in the area, it's on airplane mode because I don't want nobody calling me.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
We've talked about bike packing before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you tried bike packing?
Haven't, but I'm interested in it.
Because we watch a lot of people on YouTube that they go all across the country.
I think that'd be fun.
Or they go to Europe and bike to China or something crazy.
Yeah.
So it's really, really interesting.
Yeah, these ultra outdoor events seem.
Yeah, I think anything like that would be a great time.
Yeah.
Like the adventure races even. Where you'll do legs that are like almost bike packing and legs that are rafting and then running and mountaineering and all that in one race. You know, you've got a 10-day race or something. It's like, we just watched one, it's the race across Alaska. It's actually like a 40-day race across Alaska. And it's just,
Have you ever
anything like that's cool.
Have you heard of the Marathon Disables?
I have. Now I'm not going to say I know much about it though, but I have heard of that.
That's a really interesting one. You've heard of it before?
What is it?
It's a 6-day endurance run in the Saharan Desert. I think it starts in Morocco.
Okay.
In a few days they do double marathons, and a few days they do marathons. But it's through the sand dunes in the Sahara, and it's called the toughest race in the world.
Oh,
it's up to 120 degrees every day. But I was wondering if you had heard of it, if you would ever consider actually running the Marathon Disables.
Yeah, probably. Now, I had heard of it, and I wasn't sure exactly what it entailed, but I've always thought of like Badwater for me, Badwater.
Yeah.
Because the one thing I hate is road running. I hate running in the heat, hate running on the flat.
Yeah.
So Badwater pretty much has everything that I hate, and same with the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I like doing that kind of thing just to prove I can.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I would love to someday get into Badwater. I'd love to someday do the Marathon Disables. Yeah. Absolutely.
So you talked about getting into backpacking.
Yes.
And then you got into running after that, right?
Yes.
How did you get into running?
Well, to be honest, me and my brother really got into backpacking. We loved it. Every chance we'd get, we'd be going. And we got to where we were good at it. We enjoyed it. We could cover a lot of ground in a day. And we would find ourselves just running down the mountains. You know, 40 pounds on our back, but we'd be just flying down the mountains, you know, and seeing who could climb the fastest up the next one, you know, and it became a little bit of a competition with us, you know. And I really still hadn't thought about running. I was just backpacking. Well, my brother had read the book Born to Run. And I don't know if you've read that, but he told me, he's like, dude, I've got a book for you. You really should read it. It's changed my life. Yeah. And so I was like, all right. So I read it. And I mean, I didn't really read a lot at the time, but I did. I sat down and read it. And I was completely into it. Couldn't put it down. Yeah. And honestly, I was like, started running immediately after.
And you hear that with a lot of people who read the book.
Yeah.
Really.
It was crazy because it just really inspired me to go run. And I would encourage people not to take it to heart as far as some of the things that book, you know, it's like the barefoot and all. I did try to, in the beginning, go like as minimalist as possible. And I quickly found we may be, if we go back in our history of human evolution, we probably are supposed to run barefoot. That's pretty evident. That's you know what I mean. I get that, but we've devolved to the point where we don't have the muscles and stuff that's always necessary to do that. Yeah. And I found that within 10 miles, my feet would be so tore up I couldn't even walk the next day. And I was like, you got to work up to that. You can't just jump in. So you know, I think some people's probably read the book and made a little bit of a mistake in that area. But other than that, I mean, that book was really inspiring, and it really. It definitely changed my life. Yeah.
So you mentioned running 10 miles. Did you start with such high volume, or did you build up?
I built up. I was looking back. We were talking the other day. It's like, when did you run? When was your first run? And so I went back to Strava and dug in as deep as I could. I was like, because I remembered I had downloaded it. And then I went for a while without it. But I was like, maybe that's still there, and it was. And I think my first run was April of 2017.
Okay.
And I ran 2 miles, I think, and it was like a 12, 13-minute pace, something like that. And then I looked, though. I went back and I looked, and I was running like 2 or 3 days a week. And it was 2 miles, 2 miles, 2 miles. Within about a month, though, I was at 4 miles and down, and I was keeping it in the mid-9s.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay. So it's just good to look back sometimes because it'd been ages since I had.
Did you spend a while with just training without signing up for a race, or did you immediately sign up
Yeah,
for a race?
I was. So that would have been April of 2017, and at that time I was living in Florida, and it was actually a 2-mile paved sidewalk around the golf course is what I was running. So the only place I had to run at that time. I didn't even know.
Ouch.
Yeah, it was awful. So that would have been April. I think we moved back to Virginia in probably October of that year. So October 2017, we moved back to Galax. And then I signed up for my first race, which was the Pilot Mountain. Well, I'll take that back. My very first race was that, is it February, March, the Maroon Tide 5K.
Okay. Yeah.
I went and did that.
Yeah.
That's the very first time I'd ever ran at a race, you know. But then I'd signed up before that already for the Pilot Mountain 20K.
Yeah.
And I was training to get ready for that. I was like, that's what I'm going to do.
I've done that race, and it's a good trail race.
That's one of my favorites.
It's a fun race.
I have ran it every year except the year they canceled it for COVID. With either, I think I did the 20K the first 2 years, and I've done the marathon every year since.
Okay.
But I love going back to that event every year. It's absolutely my favorite. But we were getting ready for that event, and my brother, and he was going to run with me. It's his first race too. And so I was training, and you guys have been out to Matthews State Forest.
Yeah.
Okay. I ran out there the Wednesday before the race, and I rolled my ankle really bad. So I was like, oh man, I couldn't tell nobody. I don't want nobody to know I can't hardly walk because I got a race on Saturday, you know. And so we show up, and the only reason I was worried about it is because my brother was running. And I was just determined he couldn't beat me. So showed up for race day, and I was wearing the minimalist shoes with no tread, nothing. It's stupid. But anyway, so we ran that race, and somehow I got ahead of him, and I stayed ahead of him for the whole race, and just, bit my tongue and run as hard as I could. And finished, I think I beat him by like 30 seconds or so. It wasn't nothing much, but I did finish ahead of him. But I sat down, and I couldn't get back up, and I was literally on crutches for the next week because I'd messed my ankle up so bad.
Did it require a medical intervention, or?
No, just crutches and staying off of it for a while.
You think it's just a really bad sprain, or?
I think it was a really bad sprain, but it was something. I was like, I don't care how bad it is. I've got to run anyway. But you kind of learn you need to rest your injuries. Don't race on them. It just makes them that much worse. I think from that would have been like February, March.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I didn't run again until like that next July. I couldn't even hardly walk. So yeah.
And did you do the Maroon Tide 5K this past year too?
I didn't know.
It started snowing that morning.
That's what I heard.
It was in like April.
Yeah.
We got about an inch of snow, and it was gone by 10 o'clock.
Did you run it?
We got there at 7 a.m., and it was an inch of snow on the ground.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It made it pretty hard running.
Oh, yeah,
because it's
I
so
bet.
cold. But yeah, it was a really interesting race this past year.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
So you ran the Pilot Mountain 20K.
Yeah.
And you didn't really run much until July. You start running again in July. Did you have another race planned at that point?
Yes. The New River Trail 50K.
50K.
Yeah. So that would have been September. So I had from July to September to basically get ready for my first 50K.
So you didn't even stop at a marathon. You just went straight to 50K.
Went straight to 50K.
Because that'd be a big leap without doing a marathon.
Yeah. Yeah, and I felt like I did pretty well. I think I had like I did like 5 hours, 12 minutes.
Okay.
It wasn't like blistering fast, but to be my first 50K and flat and all, it wasn't that terrible. I didn't walk at all until I hit a marathon. I was 26 miles in when my legs said, you got to walk for a minute, man. I was dying. And then over the last 5 or 6 miles, whatever it was, I definitely had to take a few walk breaks, but I was still pretty proud of, you know.
Yeah.
It's weird. We ran the Frosty 50K. Have you heard of it before, the Frosty?
I have, yeah.
Have you ridden?
No, I haven't.
You run 7.75 mile loops around Salem Lake,
Okay.
and it's just really monotonous. I mean, it's the same thing over and over.
Them are the ones that are so hard for me because it's just a mind game.
It was just a mental struggle. Me and Samuel Collins ran it, and it was a hard day.
Yeah.
And we didn't really train for it. How did you train for your first 50K?
Well, I'd spent a lot of time on the actual New River Trail.
Yeah.
Because we're living right there. It was available. And I think that I ran, my longest run leading up to it would have been around 22 miles. I think I ran from I'm thinking I ran from Galax to Freeze one time in training. And then one time I ran from, I guess my longest would have been 24 because I ran from the caboose there in Galax to Freeze Junction and back.
Okay. Yeah.
And that would have been like in the last month leading up to that 50K. That was probably end of August, beginning of September when I did that. I didn't know anything. I didn't talk to nobody. I didn't have a coach. I just guessing at what would work and what wouldn't work, you know?
How many miles a week would you say you were running?
Probably 30 to 40 back then.
Did you work on your nutrition during that time too?
Yeah. Which still seems to be the one thing that I work on every day and every run. It's nutrition's a struggle to figure out, especially the longer the distance. I have figured out now that I can pretty much run a 50K without worrying about it.
Wow.
If I'll eat a good breakfast and go in, you know, after a good night's sleep and just snack at whatever the aid station may have, I can get through a 50K before my nutrition will get off. But after you get up to about 50 miles, especially if it's hot, I don't know, my stomach don't like anything. And it's a struggle every time to find what will work.
Yeah.
The one thing that does work, but is not always available, and it's what makes me weird, is milk.
Oh, wow.
Now,
Really?
I love whole milk, but it's got to be ice cold. You don't want to. You don't want more milk.
Yeah.
But strangely enough, I have found that ice cold whole milk will settle my stomach and bring me back out of some of the worst places I've been in.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I find, and I haven't raced a longer race like you and Luke have, but for like the maybe a half marathon, my first year I did it, I didn't have food, and my second year I had a snack at like mile 8, and I PR'd the second year I did it.
Absolutely.
Just because I had a Cliff Bar.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of interesting because I just had a little bite to eat, and I felt much better after eating. And I think that's interesting. It makes me wonder how much I would need at a marathon or even 50K.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I found, like just the little bite. That's what works. It's like if you try to eat too much,
It makes you sick.
yeah, you will make yourself sick even if you ain't.
Yeah.
Have you tried the gels before? The
Yeah.
gel packets?
I do.
I normally take those towards 15, 16 of a marathon. Especially with the marathon distance, I like the peanuts.
Okay.
I think that helps me more than anything.
Just regular peanuts.
Yeah, normally they have like the little cups of peanuts,
Okay.
and I'll take those or M&Ms.
Okay.
But if it's hot, we ran the New River Marathon a few months ago, and it was like 80 degrees during the day, and they had these salt sprays.
Okay.
It's like sodium sprays. I took one at the end, and it
Oh,
really helped.
I had went and ran for a few years and never really fooled with salt pills until recently, and now I'm starting to take salt pills, and I've noticed a difference with them.
Yeah.
They will really help you. They will really help, like even if you're getting really messed up in your stomach, up your salt intake, and it can really pull you out of that.
Sometimes those gels, though, they make me feel kind of...
Gels, I have a love-hate relationship for sure.
Yeah.
I'll carry a few, and I'll just try to mix them in throughout the day. But it's like I don't want to go for like 3 or 4 gels in a row, or I'm going to just
Yeah.
But
Gatorade has these like chewables almost. I think.
yes,
They're not bad, but they leave a weird taste, and
yeah,
yeah.
it's the spring energy, or not spring energy. Honey Stinger's got some of the chewable ones that I've used sometimes.
Honey Stingers are good.
That's what I eat before a race normally. I have
Okay.
like oatmeal, and then
Yeah.
I'll have like a honey stinger 30 minutes before.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just like those honey stingers because
The honey stingers are
they're
good.
good.
Yeah.
Yep. And they're
Really
based,
good.
they got a honey base, which is something else I do. I normally will eat at least a teaspoonful of honey every day. And so the honey stingers I like. The other gels that I like is the Spring Energy, the Awesome Sauce. It just tastes like straight up applesauce. It's delicious. And the Hammer Nutrition, I'm starting to really like their vanilla because it literally tastes like vanilla pudding.
Really?
It's easy to eat.
It's like some of those, I forget the name of the brand, but it's the gels they always have at the races.
Yeah.
They're really sticky, and they get all over my hands.
I hate them.
And it's just,
Yep.
they get in my pocket and they start squeezing it. It's,
I know.
it's just, it's,
I don't
it's
like
terrible.
them. Yeah.
It's terrible. Do you ever drink vinegar before a race? Leading up to the
Not
race?
before. I mean, I have spent times where I would do like the apple cider vinegar and stuff as just part of my daily routine. I haven't necessarily used it that much lately, and I can't say I've ever really used it before a race. I'd say there's benefits to it, though, for sure.
Yeah, I always do, not race day, but like a week or two leading up to the race, a shot of apple cider vinegar.
Okay.
And it'll wake you up in the morning.
Okay.
It's pretty
Talking about waking up now, that's something I've been battling because once you get into like 100-mile distance, you start really.
Get tired.
It's strange because the things you never think about is what's really tough. And staying awake is like really one of the toughest things for me when it comes to running 100 milers. And that's what I got to find something to wake me up.
Do you use coffee?
Most of the time by that point in the race, it's hard to get stuff to stay down. So
Yeah, okay.
you want coffee, but it don't necessarily stay down. I had tried like 5-hour energies before.
Okay.
And they work because that's one thing that'll work for me. If I don't take it very often, it'll really wake me up. But if you take it and then you throw up within 5 or 10 minutes, it don't work.
Yeah.
So that's just the waking up thing made me think. I'm wanting to experiment with smelling salts.
Oh,
So I said, next time I run a 100-miler, I'm going to take some smelling salts and see if that'll wake me up.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the science behind that? Because
I don't know.
I see people like before they
Especially
lift
weightlifers,
weights.
powerlifters,
Yeah.
they do it.
Yeah.
I mentioned it to a couple people and they were like, yeah, that will probably work. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot.
Is it just salt or is it a specific type?
I don't know what it is. You can buy it online. I don't know what it is. I've never used it, but I've heard enough about it and I'm like, I'm willing to try anything.
Did you hear about the guy that took an EpiPen shot?
No.
Yeah, my wife had said maybe you should get a taser. I'm like, that would work.
Do you listen to music during these races? I think that would help.
I don't.
I never listen to me. I think it just, I don't know. I feel
It honestly kind of
disconnected from
distracts
everything.
me.
Yeah.
When I first started running, I listened to music, and then it got to be more of a hassle. And I'm like, I like to run to be free and not be hassled. And I'm trying to find my earbuds. I'm trying to make sure I got my playlist right. And I'm like, it's too distracting. I don't like it.
It seems like you become reliant on it too.
Yeah.
We can't have it during cross-country
Yeah.
races and track
really?
races.
Yeah, when I
so
was-
we try not to,
That's smart,
Use
really.
them ever.
Yeah.
because if you become reliant on it, it's going to make running those races a lot tougher. So.
I think to each their own. I don't fault anybody for listening
Yeah.
to music at all, but
Yeah.
I personally feel like, for me at least, I'm a stronger runner without it. I'm a lot more paying attention to the surroundings and everything.
Especially with road running too.
Oh,
if you're not
yeah.
in a
Yeah.
real race and you're just running on the road,
Yeah,
it
for
can be
real.
real dangerous. Especially if you're like running through hills. So we almost gotten.
Yeah, we've
Yeah,
almost got
many
flattened a few
times.
times.
I'll believe it. I hate running on the road for that very reason.
Yeah. Have you tried listening to a podcast while you're going? No.
No, I just don't run with earbuds. I don't like doing it.
Yeah. I listen to podcasts more than I listen to music when I run, but sometimes if the podcast is monotonous, you kind of slow down with it. So
Okay.
I find that what you listen to can dictate your pace. Did you?
I believe that's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Whenever I did listen to music, it was normally heavy metal when I was running. Yeah.
So you ran your first 50K. How did that go?
It went pretty good, I felt like. I think it was like 80-some people, and I managed to
80-some
finish
people.
12th. So, yeah, I was pretty happy with it.
After finishing, did you know that you wanted to run another one?
Yeah, I pretty much went straight and signed up for another one.
Yeah. Which one was the next?
I signed up for Quest for the Crest.
Okay.
The 50K. It was labeled as the hardest 50K in North America, and I'm like, well, that's the one I want to try.
Yeah. Did you train for it? Like continue doing your 20+ mile runs or?
Yes, I started trying to put in more elevation. Got away from the New River Trail pretty much entirely and started running elevation. Yeah. But no, definitely still trying to put in the same type of 30, 40 miles a week, building up to it.
Mm-hmm. How much do you pay attention to like statistics, like heart rate, cadence, or?
I have my heart rate turned off right now.
Oh, okay. So you don't pay attention to it.
I saved my battery.
Okay.
So yeah, no, honestly, I don't pay attention to any of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. I just never have.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it could be useful?
I'm sure it could, especially to the right person.
Because you're really big into.
I track all of my runs and have the heart rate turned on, and I analyze
I totally get it.
I don't even wear a watch when I run most of the time. So.
I like wearing a watch so I can track my runs, my mileage-wise, my elevation-wise, see what I'm running. But the little details of it I don't pay attention to. When I run, I try to pay attention to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I try to pay attention. It's like you push it up there to that red line. And then, like, for longer distance races, I'll push it up to that red line, and then I'll just pull back to where I start feeling good and comfortable, can carry on a conversation. Mm-hmm. And then that's where I'll try to just settle in and stay,
So instead of building up, you go out and then you wheel back?
Well, just kind of like you roll out, you kind of get your speed build up and all, and then you're like, okay, now I don't want to push this hard. I'm just going to ease back a little bit, and then I'll ease back and just fall into where I want to run. Yeah.
Okay.
I used to go all out as hard as I could and stay all out and definitely blow up. And a lot of people will say go out slow, and I get that, and they are not, and they're not wrong. Mm-hmm. But the type of racing I do is most of the time on single track, and most of the time you're going down to single track very quick.
Yeah.
You might have a quarter mile on a road before you're hitting single track. Mm-hmm. If you don't go out fast, you're going to be stuck in the log jam, and it's just going to be. You're going to be going up the side of a mountain, barely moving, because you've got people that obviously shouldn't be up there. I mean, it's nothing wrong, nothing against people, but I'm just saying you're probably going to be faster than some of those people that are in front of you, and you're going to lose a lot of time if you just don't get off the line and get up there.
Yeah, I think pacing's a real big issue. My first 50, I went out 7:30 pace.
No, that's quick.
We were just excited to be out there, and it hurt us a little bit towards the end of the race.
Absolutely.
But so we've gotten a lot smarter since then.
Well, yeah,
try to pace it better.
I DNF'd one race, and it was a 100-miler. Mm. It was very hot in Georgia, and we did the same thing. I had a friend that was running it, and me and him both felt good, and we both felt like we could possibly win the thing. Mm. And if we'd used our heads, we probably could. Mm-hmm. But we both went out hot, and I mean, we just kept the throttle down, And once the sun rolled in 40 miles later, we were done. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Do you run with people?
It depends.
I've become attached, especially with running with cross country and track. Mm-hmm. And I do my races with a partner.
There you go.
So we run all the time with people. And I don't wear a watch, but the people I run with do.
Yeah.
So I always know how far we're going.
Yeah.
I just don't like the hassle with it, but I've become reliant with running with people. So here recently I've been trying to go more solo with my running.
Okay.
Because in a few years, everybody's going to kind of go their separate ways, and I'm going to have to figure out, running by myself. Did you train with people?
Yeah. In fact, in the beginning, I run way, way more solo than I do now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I still enjoy my times when I go out by myself. Yeah. But like tonight, we've got the Wednesday night run we do. Okay. It's called Beer Belly Running. Okay. We started it right at, I think, 5 years ago, maybe even. I'm pretty sure it was 5, maybe not, maybe 6, but I think we're right at our 5-year anniversary right now, though, that we've been running every Wednesday night in Galax. Well, for the first few years, we ran every Wednesday night in Galax. Mm-hmm. But now the group's grown, so we will run a night in Galax. Mm-hmm. Then we'll run a Wednesday in Independence, and then we'll run a Wednesday in Fort Chiswell. And then we'll, so we travel around on our Wednesday nights, but we do a group run every Wednesday night. Mm-hmm. And then I also run every Tuesday morning and every Thursday morning with the Galax Running Club. Mm.
There's a Galax Running Club?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We meet every Tuesday and every Thursday at 5 a.m. Phelps Park. We'll go for 6-7 miles. It's a great time. It's a good group of people. Awesome. In fact, the morning runs, I've only been doing it for probably a little over a year now with them. But it's really helped my running more than anything. It's just getting up them 2 mornings a week before daylight, getting out there and getting in a big run. It's been really helpful.
And the Galax Running Club organizes the turkey trot too.
Yes.
Right? on
Yes.
Thanksgiving.
Is it a membership to join the Galax Running Club?
No.
It's a Facebook group you join.
You can go in there and join the Facebook group.
Yeah.
Yeah. What happens on the run stays on the run.
Stays on the run.
Just sign the non-disclosure, you're good.
Yeah, we have the same policy.
Exactly.
So recently, you did some bigger races like 50Ks, 100 miles.
Yes.
Can you tell us about them? Which ones you've done and how they went?
Well, yeah, leading up into this year, I had pretty high goals. Had signed up to do the Hellbender 100, which is considered one of the tougher 100 miles on the East Coast for sure. It's a very tough race. So coming into this year, my mind was focused on that, but I wanted to build up and be ready for it by the time I got there. So I started off the year. I think my very first race this year was the Forgotten Florida 100.
Okay.
I went to Florida and ran 100 miles.
Was that your first 100 mile?
No, I did a 100 miler 2 years ago. The Beast of the East 100 down near Charlotte. That was my first one. So Florida, my good friend Sean Blanton had asked me to come run this Florida race, and I always told him, no, I don't want to run that one. But anyway, ended up finally coming down to Florida. I hate Florida, you know what I mean? So I hate flat races, you know. But it turned out to be a great experience. I absolutely loved it. I was blown away by how much I really enjoyed that race. Yes, it was flat. There was no elevation. I think I got like 143 feet of elevation gain for the whole race. I mean, wow. But then there were places where it was muddy and swampy, and there were places of just gravel roads. But it was a very unique experience, and I really enjoyed it. And I had hoped to go in there and do sub 24. I wanted to finally get 100 miles under 24 hours, and I came close. I had a good race, but I started getting a little nauseous and stuff, and the race slipped away from me. But we still, I think it was 24 hours and 30-some minutes I ended up. So had a good time, really enjoyed that one. And then after that, my next focus was on the Georgia Death Race, which actually I will mention this. My good friend Rosie, she runs in support of veteran mental health and suicide awareness. She lost her son Dexter to suicide. So she runs 100-mile races in his memory to raise awareness and all this. So I had paced her at a couple races, and we'd become very good friends. And she asked me if I would do a 100-miler with her. It's she does a memorial run for her son on the day he died. And she runs from her house in Berryville, Virginia to Washington, D.C., and then she goes and runs around the city and ends at the Marine Corps Memorial. And so I agreed to run that with her. So 2 weeks after the Forgotten Florida 100, I went to her place, and we ran another 100 miles. So, which was all pavement, which is another complete, wow. But it was an amazing experience, and I was honored to be a part of it, you know. But after that, that was technically my third 100-miler in my opinion. So after that, set my sights on the Georgia Death Race. I really wanted to go put in a good time, and because this would be my third year running it. And I had another good friend, Yana, that was running it, and I figured, you know, I knew she was going to put down a good time, and I was like, I want to be competitive this year. I want to be competitive this year. So I went out and I played my game right, and I was smart and started slow, really just built on the run and let it come to me. It probably took off 40th position or so out of 250 some people. And at 50 miles in, I had worked my way to 5th position. And I was like pretty happy with that. But then the good old nauseousness rolled in, and the wheels started coming off, and I started getting really dehydrated and stuff, and I dropped a few positions, dropped back to 19th. No, that's wrong. I dropped back to 31st. I dropped all the way back to 31st, and really, we did it in 19 hours. I had hoped to do more like 16 hours, but overall, it had felt good because I knew I had what it took to run strong, just that, once again, stomach issues, you know. And from there, we went on to Hellbender, which I was excited for Hellbender because it's run on the Black Mountains, which is my favorite place in the world. And then the very next weekend was the Quest for the Crest 50K, which is run on the same mountain range and is also one of the hardest races out there. And it would be the 5th year for me running Quest. So I was like, I want to make it tough at Quest this year, so I'm going to run a 100-miler the week before Quest. So,
yeah. Wasn't hard enough, right?
and wow, it was definitely hard, but Hellbender turned out to be a great experience. I knew it was going to be a hard race. It had like 25,000 feet of climbing or something like that. And I knew I wasn't going to be there to win it. Carl Meltzer was even running, you know. It's like the field was stacked. But I went and I struggled midway. A lot of rain on top of the mountain, thunderstorms and everything else, just getting soaking wet, getting cold, getting dehydrated, throwing up and everything. But then going back to the milk, now leading up to this, I already knew that would help. So I had called my good friend Kevin Sylvie, and he was wanting to come meet me to crew me if he needed to. He's like, I'll come do whatever you need, man. I'll be there for you. I was like, brother, if you could do me anything, bring me milk and Chick-fil-A sandwiches. So he met me at mile 69 in the middle of the night. Man drives 4 hours or something like that in the middle of the night to bring me a jug of milk and Chick-fil-A. And I sat out there and I drank my milk and I ate my Chick-fil-A and dried off and put on a dry shirt. And honestly, he got me full enough that I had to go sleepwalk for like the next 5 miles. Once I finally got woke up. The last 20 miles of that race, I ran faster than at any other point in that race. I mean, I guarantee you there were times when I was running 7-minute miles at the end of that race.
Wow.
And for me, it was a big victory saying, okay, so I can go, I can crash, I can burn, but I can actually fix myself and come back and still compete. Yeah. So that felt good.
Yeah. There's also the Grayson Highlands races.
Yes.
They have a half marathon, a marathon, and a 50K.
They got a half marathon, 50K, and 50 mile.
50 miles. That's
yes.
right. Okay. You've done all 3.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Can you tell us about those races?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I have something to add. My first year that I did the half marathon, you and some others were taking a picture in the parking lot, and we offered to take the picture for you, and you told us no, that it was your routine to take like a selfie with everyone. And then I found that picture on your Strava too.
That's true. That's funny.
Yeah.
I remember that now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then of course you.
And I believe that would have been the year we were running the half marathon.
I think it was too.
Okay.
You guys destroyed me.
That's one of the only races I've won. I'll say I won for the males. I was the first place male that year. Rebecca Johnson won it outright.
Yeah.
Which she always wins everything outright.
Yeah.
But it was funny because if you actually go on Ultra Sign Up, I'm showing his third because there was some dude there that banded the race that year.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. And he like Becca slowed down after that too.
Yes.
Because he crossed and like made a whole big deal out of it, and then Becca slowed down because she heard, and then when she got back, people like confronted the dude, and the dude was like, "Well, I just wanted to feel special or whatever."
I know.
And
somehow his name got listed in the results, and his name's still in the results as being the winner.
Wow.
But he didn't get. I got the trophy at home, not him. But he like I went through. I was like, "Where did this dude come from?" So I went through like the pictures and stuff, and he don't even show up in the pictures until the very last photographer. And I'm like, "What in the world did this guy do?"
Yeah. Silly.
But anyway, so that was a great race. Which my friend Rob, my business partner, he was also running that race, and he had won it the year before. And we went out there and trained and stuff, and he was definitely, it was going to be him and Becca, and if I was lucky, I was going to be able to hold on to third. So that was the little pack we made when we ran that year. We were like, all right, it's going to be first, second, and third right here. And we went out that way. We went out knotted up in a group, and we ran together for like the first 3-4 miles. And then Rob took off, pulled away, and Becca started pulling off. I think I caught back up with Becca like halfway through for a minute or two, but she kept. I can't stay with Becca. Becca's fast. And then that was the year that the half was also more like 16 miles.
Yeah, it was 16.
So Rob's up to about mile 13, and it's where we've got the big long road climb.
Yeah.
And I look way up there, and I see Rob, and I'm like, what what is Rob doing? I shouldn't be catching Rob. You know what I mean? And then I'm like, why is Rob walking? You know, so I caught up with him. He had blowed up. And he had pulled something. I forget what it was. And I was like, well, love you, man, but this is my one chance to go win a race.
Yeah.
But if it hadn't been for him blowing up, I definitely wouldn't have won it.
Yeah. I remember reaching the hill because there's a sign. It says he uses a swear word. And I won't say it on air, but he said one big hill remaining, right?
Yes.
And I remember looking at my watch. I'm like, I'm at mile 12. This is supposed to be a half marathon, but I know the pinnacle at the top is like a good 3 or 4 miles.
No, so, it was a little over 16 miles.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
So I was like, well, this is longer than I expected.
Yeah,
and yeah, you won.
Yeah, back of one.
Yeah.
Back of one.
Yeah, and yeah.
But that was a fun race.
It was good. And then
go ahead.
You did the 50K too.
Yeah, I've done both. In fact, the first year I did the 50 miler.
Okay, yeah.
I did that. I think it was the first year they had the 50-mile option. And it was a fun race. I enjoyed it. I want to go back and do it again because it's been a few years now, and I'd really like to go back and give it a better shot. I think it took like 9th or 10th or somewhere in there with that race. But
a few years ago, someone had to be airlifted off the mountain. They fell and I think broke their hip.
Oh man!
They fell in a hole and they had to get airlifted off. But,
oh wow!
Yeah, it's a dangerous race.
Okay.
Do you feel like the 50 miler there is harder or easier than other 50 milers you've done?
I think it's a tough race.
Yeah.
Now as compared, I ain't done a lot of the 50-mile distance. I think at any race up at Grayson is going to be pretty tough. There's going to be easier races for sure, and there's going to be harder races for sure. But Grayson is a great course because you've got enough climbing, you've got enough single track, you've got enough rocks, you've got you've got enough of everything to make it a difficult race, you know. But it's also beautiful. Oh my goodness, it's beautiful up there with the ponies and the longhorns and everything that's up there. It's just an incredibly beautiful place to race.
For the half marathon, when you pass by the ponies, there are photographers there,
yes,
and they'll take your picture with the ponies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ran the Yeti 100?
I have not. It's just a lot faster of a race than what I normally run.
Yeah.
That's a good speed race.
Is really something you want to do?
I don't know. I may someday. I may.
Yeah. And I was going to ask this question earlier, but when you go into a race that you've ran before, are you trying to go for a certain time or a placement?
I'll normally have a time in my head. More than placement. I'll normally be thinking of a time. But the placement's there too. I can't lie. I've got a competitive.
Yeah.
I can't help it. I enjoy being. I may not be that competitive, but I enjoy thinking I am. Let's put it that way. And it's fun to try. It's fun to go try. It's like anyone that shows up in races and runs or anything, that's awesome. Yeah. And I don't care what their reasoning is. I think that with anything like that, it's a personal reason. If you're competitive and you want to win, that's good. That's not bad. If you just want to show up and you want to finish, that's great. That's not bad. You know, I don't try to act like I'm better than nobody. But when I show up, I do like to think, hey, if everything goes right for me and something goes wrong for everybody else, I might just win this thing today. So, yeah.
Can you talk about the leap between a 50 miler and a 100 miler?
Yeah, and honestly, it's huge. It's huge. The 100-mile distance is a thing within itself, in my opinion. It's once you've been out there long enough that you've seen the sunrise twice, it starts messing with your mind. You know, it's the 100-mile distance is hard. 50, I think 50, you can really nail that down. I mean, some people can nail down 100 and just flat run it, but I mean, for me, I've about got to the point where a 50. I don't worry that much going into it. I pretty much know what to expect over 50 miles. 100 miles is different because you just don't know what you can predict. Stuff's going to come up that's just not what you planned for.
Yeah. And then, speaking of 100 milers, you've created the course Froggy Mountain.
Yes.
And in a few weeks, you have the Froggy 100.
That's correct.
Where it's 100 laps around Froggy Mountain, and each lap is about a mile long, and it's about 500 feet of elevation gain.
That's correct.
And I think in your Facebook post, you said you have 6 people doing the
I
Froggy.
think we're at 6 now.
Can you just tell us a bit about that? I ran the Froggy 6K before, and it kicked my butt. It's one of the hardest races I've ever done in my life. I cannot imagine doing 94 more laps.
It's probably going to be the hardest thing I've ever attempted in my life.
Yeah.
I like it because it's so out there, I don't even know if it can be done. I mean, I know someone can do it. I'm hoping one of us 6 can. I'm hoping all 6 of us can, you know.
Who else doing it?
Well, actually, this year, I think we got 5 on the 100, and I got one guy showing up that's wanting to do a 50K.
Okay.
So it's going to be me, and it's going to be my good friend Rosie Gagnon.
Okay.
Then a guy named Andrew Harvey, and a guy named Zach Coggins, and then a local lady named Sandy Jones.
Okay.
And then my good friend Sean Wadula is coming,
Okay.
hopefully coming to do a 50K. He's interested in. And I've had a few other people reach out with interest, just I'm not sure yet. We could have up to maybe 10 people show up.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That'd be great.
It would be.
Is it self-supported, or are you gonna have a crew?
Well, I've got a few people that have definitely said they're willing to help with crewing and aiding and stuff. So I think that throughout the race, there's definitely going to be some aid out there available and stuff. There'll be some hot food at times and stuff. But I'm telling everyone, you know, it's a 1 mile lap.
Yeah.
Bring your base camp and set up at the start finish area, and plan to be somewhat self-supported, because I'm running this myself. You know, I have a thing with my races and my courses that I run them the first year, but that's it. I won't run them after that. I want to do it the first time to see if it's doable and what kind of time it can be done in. But since I'm going to run it and not race directed, I can't guarantee you're going to have hot food every lap. You know, if a volunteer or something ain't there, then be prepared to self-support. Yeah.
And what made you think of this? Because it's just so crazy.
It's been something I've wanted to do for a while, but it's like I wanted to know that I might be able to pull it off before I did it, and so I didn't want to do it too prematurely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've actually ran 50K on it twice.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay, and then I did the 40 loops once.
Okay, yeah. I think I saw on Strava you did the 50K, and then later on in the day you ran like 6 miles too. That was crazy to me. I can't imagine.
It isn't smart. That's true.
I can't imagine doing 50K on Froggy and then going and running afterwards.
Go run afterwards. Yeah, right. Had to do a cool down.
Yeah.
And the repetition of that's going to be tough too.
That's going to be the hard part. I think the fact that it's going to be an insanely hard course.
Yeah.
And then you've also got the ability to drop every mile.
Yeah.
So every lap, you can go sit down and say, I'm done.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to say anything to you. Ain't nobody going to fault you at all, because it's a very hard course. So, yeah, the mental game of getting back up and going back up that hill again, it's going to be hard.
That 100th lap's probably going to be incredible.
It's going to be, I mean, I hate saying if, but I mean, even with me, if.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. It's going to be tough.
If the weather's bad too.
Oh, that would change everything.
Because the first time I ran the course, it was pouring rain, and I slipped. And
You know how bad it is up there when it's raining.
It's so slick. You have to hold on to trees to pull yourself
You
off.
do.
And if it's raining while you guys do it,
And over the course of 100 loops,
Yeah.
it's going to rain at some point.
Yeah.
You can guarantee it.
But at the Yeti 100 this past year, that's when the tropical
Oh, it
storm
was a
came
washout, wasn't it?
through. I think the dropout rate was like 70%.
Yes.
Because people were getting hypothermia that night.
Yeah, I had a few friends running it, and I think everyone I know that was running it dropped.
Dropped out. This was a bad year for it.
Yeah, that makes it tough. I mean,
Yeah.
weather changes everything. But yeah, the Froggy Mountain 100 will be epic.
yeah, it will.
Which we're giving everybody 60 hours this year to do it.
60 hours.
I'm setting the time limit at 60 hours just because it's going to be that hard, and I don't
Yeah.
know. We got to put some kind of time limit on it this year. If I can go out and do it in 45 hours, then we may drop it down to 50, 55 next year. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
Can you talk about your training schedule right now for me?
well, my training schedule after Hellbender and Quest, I had decided to kind of take a break and rest a little bit, because I felt like I'd pushed so much that, like going back to Quest.
Yeah.
I love that race. The first year I run it, I'd done it, took 50th position, and then the following 3 years I did top 10s. I just love that course. Well, going this year, running it 10 miles into it, I was top 10. 10 miles into it, all of a sudden I'm hitting the wall, and I'm like, and it wasn't that my legs were tired. My legs were fine, but I was sleepy. I was tired. I was exhausted. And then I said, when I finish this race, I'm taking some time, because I just need to rest my body before I go do something big again.
Yeah.
So I've took the last month and not run near as much as I'd like to have. In fact, 2 weeks ago, I only ran 14 miles, which is like, that's the least I've run in I don't know how long. But now last week, I was back up to 50 miles with around 10,000 foot of climbing. And this week, same thing. Yeah. I'll probably do that this week and next week, and then back down for 1 week and then go for it at Froggy.
Would you recommend night training?
Yes, absolutely.
Because that's something I want to start doing, especially as I'm looking forward to bigger races next year. I'm just not really sure how to train at night.
Well, my opinion and how I've done it is I've went and worked all day, like on a Friday, and come home from work, go eat my dinner and all that, and then go run.
Can you run on the middle of the trail at night?
I have. I ran from Cliffview to... I left Cliffview at like 10 o'clock one night and ran all the way out to Freeze Junction and back. I didn't have no trouble. Nobody bothered me. You know?
Yeah. Don't they lock off the parking lot?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I don't believe they do.
Okay, I see.
And you can always go up to Danley and park because of the campground there.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Okay.
But the night running is something I want to start doing.
Yeah.
Because I think that'd be very important, especially in a long race.
And you're always welcome to come run Froggy Mountain at night.
I think.
I mean, that's a nice private track where you don't have to worry about people.
Yeah.
That's what I like about it. I've spent more nights out there probably running than anywhere. Just go out there at night and just go up. And I've started just as it's getting dark before and stayed out there till I seen the sun come up.
Have you encountered any bears?
I haven't. Not there. Not at Froggy Mountain, no.
Because I've ran a bunch through the woods in Carroll County. I've never seen
I have
one.
too. Like at Matthews and everywhere, but I have not seen any on my property.
I'm always waiting because I heard of a hunter or a hiker got mauled a few years ago in Carroll.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah. So I mean, something you always have to think about, but I'm just waiting for the day till I around the corner.
I think 3 or 4 different times at Matthews I've ran into them with cubs.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely a lot of bears around.
So Froggy's a single track trail, I would say. It's pretty single track. Do you prefer single track over like a wider trail like the Nerva Trail or?
I prefer single track.
Yeah, is that because do you prefer the Froggy's pretty windy and has a lot of turns? Do you like that?
Yeah.
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 You don't like the straight single
windy,
track?
technical. That's what I like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is somewhat related. Have you ever gotten hurt on doing running, or you mentioned your twisted ankle? Have you had another injury since?
The worst thing I've had was last September. And it was one of our morning runs with the Galax Running Club. And I was running before daylight, just got jogging a 10-minute mile with no headlamp, and stepped into a pothole and rolled my foot. Kind of rolled it, towards the outside.
Yeah.
And I've still got a knot in here. And I don't know what it is, but that's the one thing, man. It flares up to this day. And it was one of them just stupid little injuries. One of them that shouldn't have even happened, but... Yeah.
How do you recover from an injury like that?
I've just pushed through that one. I ain't gonna lie. I let it sit for about a week or two, and it just kept hurting. And I'm like, well, I got to keep running.
Yeah. That reminds me of something I did want to ask you too. Shoes.
Okay.
What do you recommend for longer races? Because I've been wearing Brooks Ghost because that's just where I've always worn Brooks Ghost. But
okay. For me, I like Hoka. I love Hoka. The Speed Goat's the shoe that I wore the most until. This is the Mafate, the Hoka Mafate, and this is the only pair I've had, but I absolutely love this shoe. It's pretty much wore out. That was from running a route through it at Hellbender. It came right in through the top and tripped. But so these shoes are about shot, but these have been my absolute favorites. Yeah. But the Speed Goats as well for long distance technical running.
Yeah.
I can't give you an opinion on road shoes because I've had one pair of road shoes in my life. Most of the time I wear my wore out trail shoes.
Do you like Solomon?
I've never tried Solomon.
Really? Okay.
Never have.
Those are the only pair of trail shoes I've ever tried.
Okay.
So, yeah, and
a lot of people love them.
Yeah. And do you rotate shoes? Because you do?
To an extent, yeah.
Yeah. Because during cross-country and track season, I rotate a different pair, like 3 different pair, right?
It's smart. I've got 3 going right now.
Yeah, and everyone else thinks I'm crazy for
that's something I'm bad about because I've had the same shoe for 6 months now.
It makes a difference.
Falling apart at the seams.
Yeah, I would recommend rotating shoes for sure.
Do you think 3 pair, like around 3 pairs?
That's what I normally 2 to 3. I normally ain't no more than 3.
Are there any shoes you're excited about that are coming out, like maybe a new pair of Hokas or Speed Goats?
The next time I can actually find these Bafatis again, because every time I go they don't have my size. I've just been wanting to get my second pair real bad.
So do you think it is reasonable for somebody to make a leap from a 50K to a 100-miler? How long do you think it would take to?
I think it's very possible. I think it's very doable. I think you just got to be willing to put in the work.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing. A lot of people will say, even like to talk about a 50K distance. What does it take to run a 50K? How many runs what should your mileage be? All this kind of stuff. A lot of people say, well, if you're going to run a 50K, 20-mile, 22-mile long runs all you need. That's good advice if all you want to do is go finish that 50K. Mm-hmm. But if you actually want to compete at that 50K, you need to go out there and train and put you in a 50K and see what it actually feels like to go that far. Mm. So when you're making the jump from a 50K to a 100, you got to realize if all you want to do is finish that 100-miler, then jump your weekly mileage up to say 60 to 80 miles a week, and you're going to finish it. Mm. But if you really want to compete at it, you need to put in a few 100-mile weeks. You need to put in, you know, you may not go run a 100-mile run in training, but you need to be out there. You need to go put you in some 12, 14-hour runs in training, all-night runs, just getting you. But now, that is the difference between competing and finishing, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
As far as if you just want to finish it, and you can carry a 60-mile a week load, you can probably talk your body into finishing it, but it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt bad. You know what I mean?
You think a year would be plenty of time?
Absolutely. And I mean, honestly, I wouldn't say a year. I think if you did a 50K in the spring and you trained hard, you could do a 100-miler in the fall. 100%. But it depends on the person.
Yes.
A lot of people do not want to put in the work. They just want to get the finish.
Yeah. Do you use a certain formula to build up mileage? Because I hear a lot of people say like the 10% rule. Don't increase your weekly mileage by 10%. Do you?
I don't have a rule.
Mm-hmm. You just
as I go, like I'll start out and say I'm coming off of my normal 20 to 30 mile weeks, and I have a race out in the distance that I want to start really ramping up for. This week I run 30. Next week I run 35. Week after that I'll run 40, and then I'll be up to 50, and then I'll get up to 60, and then you know what? A lot of times I'll drop back down to a 20-mile week. Just to rest. And then, you know, you say you've been building over a few months and you're getting up there 60, 80 miles a week. Take your rest week. Drop down to like 20 miles. Don't like do nothing. Just drop it for a week. And then, you know, as long as you've got like 3 or 4 more weeks before your race, so you can jump it back up again. But back into a lot of times I go out Strava, you'll see that I'll go up and down. But it's a slow build, but there's always, after a few weeks, there'll be that drop. And I think it's good to have a light week, even in your training.
What
Rest your body.
What do your rest days look like during the week? How many days do you take off?
I normally run about 5 days a week.
5 days.
Yeah, I like to take. I'll normally don't run on Monday. I'll run Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. A lot of times I'll take off Friday, and then I'll run Saturday, Sunday.
Do you incorporate speed workouts or
No
tempo?
No. And, you know, I was just talking to a guy who's a good friend of mine about that, and he was like, Paul, if you'll just start doing some speed workout, you know, it'll completely change it. You know, you're strong as it is, but if you'd incorporate that, it would really bump it up. So I want to. I do.
Did he suggest like intervals or?
Somewhat, yes.
Okay.
Yep. And I did that a couple years back. Me and a friend was training for a race together, and he was doing a lot of the interval training, and I did it with him some, and I could definitely see the benefits.
Is that something you enjoy? Because I know a lot of people do not like it.
I enjoy running, period, but I guess, you know, when you're really out there, I enjoy running fast. I do. It's harder than running slow.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. You know, you can say what you want to, but it is. So if you're just doing a 10-minute pace and going for 100 miles versus a 5-minute pace for 3 miles, you know, which one is the hardest? Probably that 5-minute pace for 3 miles, to be honest.
You think?
That's me, you know what I mean? Like, I'll run a 5K and lay there and be more dead than I will be after running a 50K.
Yeah, interesting.
It's funny how it is, but it's true.
For me, it'd be the opposite.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
But if my training is more built towards that slower approach.
Yeah, that's true. For the intervals you did a few years ago, did you do them around a track or like?
Most time on the river trail.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know our team, when we had our old coach, he would take our team out to run a mile at a time on the trail and then jog back and then a mile at a certain speed or whatever.
Okay.
But nowadays we do it around the track. We have a different coach now, so we do a mile around the track at a certain time. And
Okay.
then
He
wait.
doesn't have a CDL, but our old coach,
Yeah.
you know Pat Sharp?
Know the name a little bit.
He's he's a lot of cycling.
Yeah, he,
Okay.
he bikes a lot now.
Okay.
But he used to take us to the trail
Yeah.
2 times a week
There you go.
for the cross country team. So,
Yep.
and that's something I'm kind of nervous about, especially signing up for these big races, is cross country and track,
Yeah.
because we're doing specific workouts
Absolutely,
each day
yeah.
and races, and I'm kind of nervous about signing up for a big event
Right.
because I still want to do these
Right.
track and cross country seasons. 'Cause it's my last year.
Absolutely. That's good stuff. That's building your future right there.
Yeah.
And that's what stopped me from doing the longer races at Grayson Highlands, because Grayson is always during track season,
Right.
like the first
Right.
month.
Yeah.
And then if I do a 50-miler at
That's
Grayson
going to mess
Highlands,
that up a little bit.
Yeah,
I
and
was,
I get that.
I have to decide which one I value more.
Yeah, I understand that.
I ran a marathon in the last 2 weeks at track this year, the New River Marathon in Fleetwood,
Mm-hmm.
and I got a really good time, but it missed my.
Oh, yeah.
That
I
last
believe
week at
it.
track I was not running at the point. Everybody was kind of pissed about it, but
Right.
I signed up for it 3 days in advance.
Yeah.
So it's very last minute. I just wanted to do something
Right.
because I was tired of running around the track. I said,
I
I gotta,
understand, man.
I said I have to go do something longer, and I think mentally, I think it was the best thing I could have done.
I don't believe that.
But
Have you ran on the Beaver Dam Trail in
Yeah,
Brooksville?
that's one of the first trails I used to run. Yeah.
Oh, have you ran on it since it was rerouted? It no longer, it was cut a little bit. It used to go around like a shed, but they put up a fence and.
I haven't been, no.
they
Okay.
shortened it a little bit. Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
not been over there in the last few years, probably. Yeah.
It's a nice trail. I was just wondering.
It is fun. Me and my brother used to run that like 7 years ago, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Do you weightlift or like do
That's what I'm
any?
saying. Weightlift for calisthenics or anything.
No. Never been into weightlifting. A few times I would go down to like power up and do some of the obstacle courses and stuff like that, but I don't do that near as much as I should.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think cross training and anything like that is good,
Yeah.
but I just don't find the time to do it.
Yeah. A lot of people suggest like biking and swimming, and then I think that'll get people interested in triathlons.
Right.
Have you ever thought about doing a triathlon?
I would love to. I really would. I hate water and I hate swimming, so that's the only reason I haven't.
Yeah.
When I was young, I almost drowned, and it seems like it's just in my head these days, and it messes with me. That swimming, that's the one thing. It's just like I don't know.
Have you considered doing like the tri challenge where you kayak?
Now that I would do.
Yeah.
That I would do. And the only reason I haven't done that is it literally always falls on the same day as one of my favorite races that I'm always running. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Do you bike much? Because you'd have to bike in a.
I do bike some, not a whole lot, but a few times a year I'll go biking. I really enjoy going downhill mountain biking, like at
yeah.
Beach Mountain or something. Going
Yeah,
and
Beach
ride the
Mountains.
ski slopes.
Yeah.
That's
That's
fun.
fun.
Now, I think near Hiwassee on the trail, there's a mountain biking course.
There is.
Have you been on it?
I have.
It-
It's small, probably 4 or 5 miles altogether, with some different loops in there and all. But it's actually a really fun course.
Yeah. I went on it and it was a little bit unnerving as someone who doesn't really have much mountain bike experience.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you have any tips on getting more comfortable with like the tight turns and?
No, I don't. I need to get more comfortable myself on that. I got a good friend that rides. He's rode for years. And I'll go ride with him. But yeah, I run way more than I bike.
I feel like Galax has a decently active biking community as well.
They really are.
Yeah.
Especially with the newer trail right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I feel like I need to get more into it. I feel like I need to learn how to work on bikes. Every day I get asked if we are a bike shop. People every day are looking for a bike shop in Galax.
There used to be one in Galax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they want for somebody to work on them. You know what I mean? And it's
Because
like,
now for maintenance, I have to drive down to Mount Airy.
Yeah.
Get it worked on.
I would love to do it. If I don't want to offer service when I don't even know what I'm
Yeah.
doing. You're like, yeah,
Yeah.
no.
Do you feel like running translates well to swimming or biking?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
One summer, a couple years back, I did do a bit more biking. And whenever I got off the bike and started running again that fall, I didn't feel like I'd lost anything. And I was pretty surprised. It's like, yes.
Because he's been injured during the track season and cross country season. He swims.
Yeah.
And you're a pretty good swimmer now. I think
Yeah.
you've really
Okay.
taken to that more than anything past a while.
I believe swimming's probably one of the best exercises out there.
Yeah, but I'll come back from swimming after my injury, and I'll be just as strong as I was before. And
that's awesome.
Like aerobically,
Yep.
but like my legs will take a little bit more time to adjust, right? And after like certain runs, I'll feel like, wow, my calves are sore. But
Right.
During, I feel like I can stay with the rest of the team, and
That's awesome. Okay. I would love to swim more. There's one thing I regret is not.
Swimming's hard too.
Yeah, it is.
Because we was at Claytor Lake. I make fun of Ethan. We pick on each other. Because I've never been much into swimming. I like swimming for fun, not as a sport. So I was picking with Ethan. And we're at Claytor Lake. And there's this buoy out in the lake. I thought I'm going to swim to it. And I got out there. And I looked back. And the people were just real small. And I said, oh, my God. I said, this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. So I was in there having to float on my back and rest. And then swim and float on my back and rest.
Oh, yeah.
I thought I was going to.
Oh, I would have died out there. I would have drowned.
Because it's open. Ultramarathoning is really impressive. Ultramarathon swimming is.
That is insane.
Especially open water.
I have the most respect for that. I can't even imagine doing it. No.
They're swimming 30, 40 miles, sometimes longer. Yeah. They're getting stung by jellyfish the whole time. It's salt water. It's getting everywhere. It's just.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I have no desire to do it.
So, it's wild.
Yeah, that makes running look like nothing. Yeah.
Before we wrap up here, have you heard of the Western States 100?
Oh, yeah.
Have you thought about running?
I put my entry in it last year. It just didn't get picked.
Because Dean Karnazes, you've heard Dean Karnazes before. I'm a big fan of him. I love his books. I think that was one of his first 100 milers.
Yep.
And that section of his book is incredible. Just talking about how tough it is.
Yeah, I would love to run that race someday. Which I'll run the Georgia Death Race. It's a qualifier for it, so as long as I need to, I'll keep qualifying to put my ticket in every year. But hey, it's hard to get picked for something like that with as many people as entering these days. But
and you mentioned Badwater earlier.
Yeah.
Have you ever submitted an application?
Well, I think I'm 100 miler away from being qualified.
Okay.
I think you have to have 400 miles in a certain period of time to qualify, to even put an entry in for that race.
Has that been different? Because I read, do you know who David Goggins is?
Yeah.
I read his book, and he only did 200 milers, and that qualified him for it.
I would have to look. It may have changed.
It might have. Yeah.
I was looking at this past year, just seeing what it would take. Okay. You know, now there is some other. Now he may have ran one of their qualifying races because I'm thinking they may have like a small handful of 100 milers that if you run them, then that is a bit more of a qualifier.
I think he did this 24-hour challenge, and then I think he did one in Hawaii too.
Okay.
And I think that allowed him. But he was in close contact with the race director.
Yeah.
And I think he might have been exempt for some reason.
Probably, yeah.
I also saw where you did the Gus Grinder.
Yeah.
Oh. I tried to sign up for that race 2 years ago, or a year and a half. I think it was either last year or the year before that. And I couldn't find anything out about it.
I don't think they had it again, which kills me. I'd love to go.
Yeah, because...
Yeah, I signed up for that, which it was a spur of the moment. It was the day of.
Really?
I was training for my first Georgia Death Race, and this was like 3 weeks before it, and I needed to go run long that day, and I was like...
You got the longest distance that day, right?
Yeah.
It was like 60-some miles.
65 miles.
65 miles.
Yeah, so I showed up and signed up, and a guy named Landon Nolan, which I didn't know him at the time, but he's become a really good friend, he backed in beside of me, and... We stood there and talked for a minute, and he said, do you have any distance you're going for? And honestly, up to that point, I had not even thought about it. And I was like, no, not really. I was like, what about you? And he's like, well, I think I'll at least go for 100K today. So in the back of my head, I thought, okay, let's try to go for 100K.
Yeah.
So we ran a few laps, and I don't remember. I think he made it up to like 30-some miles. I forget. But something happened, and he decided to drop on out and be done for the day. And then it just kept going. And then at one point, I finally realized I'd lapped everybody there, more than once. And I was like, I don't know. It was one of them days where everything felt really good. Everything felt great. And I finally came around, and I think the race was supposed to be over at like 8 o'clock. And it was like 7:30, like 7:20 something. And I come through, and I was the obvious winner at that point because everybody else was already done, and I already lapped the field. And they were like, everybody was out there cheering, and I was like, we got time for one more lap. Sorry, guys, I ain't going home yet. I paid for 12 hours, and I went and run it again. So we got the 100K plus one lap. So that was fun. But I really wanted, they were talking that year about coming back and doing even a 24-hour event. And I was like, yeah, please do. I want to do it. But I haven't seen nothing about it since.
Is the elevation on that course?
I don't want to lie, but I think over the course of 65 miles, I had right around 8,000 feet of climbing.
Okay.
Nothing crazy, but not flat.
Yeah.
And I think it's what helped me. There was 2 hills on that course, and it was basically a 5K loop. Mm-hmm. About halfway through, there was this real steep, short hill that was just smarter to slow down and walk.
Yeah.
And then right next to the start-finish area, there was another real steep, short hill. So it was basically like run a mile, walk a quarter mile, run a mile, walk a quarter. And I think that's what saved me. And throughout the day, it's just like, I can do this all day because it's just that constant breakup.
Yeah.
Do you walk much in a 100-miler?
I try to, if it's not a flat one, if it's a mountain 100, I try to hike and climb when it's steep and run when it's not.
Yeah.
And even if it's 100, I mean, I have walked stuff that's just runnable for sure.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I try to keep
going.
Keep moving, man. Yeah.
And I have a question about hydration because we covered nutrition a little bit. But
yeah.
Do you carry a camel pack?
I carry 2 soft flasks up front.
And
I hate putting the water in my back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you put water in them or a mixture?
Water. I've tried a lot of different stuff, but mainly water.
I noticed you're carrying a body armor today.
Yes.
Have you tried drinking it during a race?
I have.
How'd it go?
Honestly, I loved it. It was good, but I've only been able to have it as my first bottle of the race, and I've never had it work out to where I can have a cold one later on in the race. So I think it might work good.
I know some people try trade winds too during the race.
Trade winds.
No,
it's really, really high in electrolytes.
Okay.
It's not called trade winds, but I know what you're talking about.
It is trade wind.
Solar wind? No.
No, it's just. I think it might be trade wind.
Anyway,
is it that?
It's an electrolyte mix.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've heard of that.
Yeah.
But I found a lot of the electrolyte mixes that I would put in my water would make me nauseous.
Yeah, I did too. Because I bought a bag of it, and it might be right. It might be called trade winds.
Oh, you're talking about tailwinds.
Tailwind.
Yeah. Okay. Now, it just popped in my head, and it did the same thing to me.
Tailwinds.
Yeah, I bought a bag, and A, it tastes funny.
Yes.
And B, it just.
And I've read all these people talking about how they used it because it was so easy on their stomach, and I was like, okay, this might be good for me, and I tried it, and
yeah,
it made me so nauseous. I could not run with that stuff.
Have you tried Gatorade?
I have, and all of it, like the body armor, the Gatorade, all that has worked good, ice cold and early in a race.
Yeah,
but not after.
Yeah.
6-7 hours of running. It's just like.
Have you ever drank a Coke or something?
In fact, I was at the race, and now I'm trying to think what race I was running. I think it was Hellbender. It was Hellbender, okay? And I'd come to the aid stations, and my bottles would still be full of water. Mm-hmm. And they were the volunteers were like, "You ain't drinking nothing. You need to drink your water." And I'm like, I am. I'm filling it up out of the creek where it's actually cold. I'm like, this stuff in these jugs is lukewarm and making me nauseous and everything else. So, no, there's springs running off the mountain everywhere that's ice cold. That's the water I'm drinking.
For Grayson Highlands, I would carry a camel pack, and I would do a 50-50 Gatorade water mix.
Okay.
Have you tried mixing
I have, and it is better that way. Mm-hmm. It'll dilute it down some.
Yeah. And
did it work good for you?
It's always worked well for me. And
good.
When I did Sandman, have you ran Sandman?
No, but I want to.
It's fun.
Okay.
But when I ran Sandman and I carried a bottle, that's what I did for it.
Okay.
And
I need to try that more.
And I've heard a lot of people say that they need to pee a lot when they drink Gatorade.
Right.
Whereas they don't have that issue with just water or body armor. Have you found that to be the case? Because I have.
I don't know, because it depends on the races. I've had some races where I've had to pee like every mile, seems like times, you know, and then somewhere you like run the whole thing and you're like, I didn't even go.
I tried to hold mine as far. It kind of gives me something not really to look forward to, but to
you're right.
But to work towards.
I like that
because I gotta pee, but I'll just wait till this mile. It seems like it goes by a lot faster.
Yeah, that's the truth. It is. Yeah. You force it to wait a while.
Yeah.
I will do that until I feel like it's starting to slow me down, and then it's once you're so uncomfortable, it's like I gotta do something.
Have you heard of Rocky Raccoon? I heard a lot of people run that one.
I have. Now I don't know much about it, but I've heard of it for sure.
Yeah.
how big of a role do you think social media plays in running? Because we have like the running club group on Facebook and like Strava and like Garmin technically has a platform too. Do you feel like comparing yourself to others makes you want to run more or run faster?
I think it can have both effects on people. I think some people like me, I use it as a tool to learn. Like if I'm running something that someone else I'm following has ran or something, I can see what they've done training wise leading up to it and stuff of that nature, you know. I think that the bad side of it is when people really start comparing themselves and letting that get to them and tearing them down, you know, because social media is a great tool, but it's also can be bad as well, in my opinion. Yeah. I think, though, that overall the impact is good. I like it. I mean, I think I feel like for me, it's encouraging to me when I'm seeing other people out here doing all that stuff, and it's like, okay, they're doing the same thing I am. This is awesome, you know, and it's community and it grows. Yeah. But you know, some people want to compare themselves, and it's not good to compare yourself to other people. Yeah.
But I've met some of the coolest people running races.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've met most of my friends through running too. Yep. So just
I didn't know nobody before I started running, and now it's like I know people all around the world, it feels like.
Yeah. Me and Luke met each other
through running. Yeah. So that's a lot of stuff in my life has been through running. So
it's the same thing like with my business partners and stuff.
Exactly.
If it wouldn't have been for running, we would have never met, you know. Yeah.
Speaking of, have you did a Spartan race?
I have not.
Is it something you've thought about?
I have. I just like running much better than I like climbing obstacles. But I went a couple years back, and we ran the team event in the Marine Corps Mud Run in Pilot Mountain, I think it was. Okay. And it's like a 5K with just some basic obstacles and stuff. And I really enjoyed it. I ain't gonna lie, it was a blast. So I'd probably enjoy doing a Spartan. I always roll around every year saying I'm going to slow down this year and not do near as much, and then the next thing I know, I look and I've got like 6 or 7 races already lined up for the year. So,
it's busy.
Yeah, it's hard to squeeze in some of these other ones.
Well, as we're wrapping up here, we always have a set of questions we ask the people that we're interviewing. I'll go ahead and start out.
I have a question about your business. What advice would you give to younger people wanting to start their own business and make their living through their own business and do what they love instead of working maybe a traditional job?
I think at the end of the day, it can be hard to crack the code and stuff to do what you love and really make a living at it. But you got to try. You got to try anyway. You might succeed, you might fail, but you got to give it a shot, because if you don't give it a shot, it's definitely not going to happen. If there's something out there that you really love to do, then do it. If there's a business you want to start, then do it. If it fails, then you probably learned a lot from it, and it wasn't a failure in reality. You know, just like this business that we got right now, it's like just the stuff I've learned from having a retail spot. You know what I mean? It's like even if it doesn't succeed or something, I have learned so much from it that it wouldn't be a failure. So do it. That's my advice.
Yeah, that's good.
And this next question runs along the same vein as Ethan's. What's your advice for young adults just making their way into the world? They don't really know what they want to do.
That's tough, and it's understandable because I was once there myself. You know, you have to really find something that you enjoy doing. You need to get outside. You need to get off the couch, get away from the television, get away from the computer, and find something that makes you tick and something that makes you happy, and do it. I mean, I don't know if that really answers your question or not, but if it makes sense, you know what I mean? You got to find what you enjoy doing, and then you can follow your heart and go do it. And I think that if you find something like that, it's going to be a lot easier in this world, because if you don't, man, there's so much bad out there to suck you in and just destroy you. So, and on that note, I mean, me personally, like, I've come a long ways from my past and stuff. And the one thing that helped me find my way was finding the outdoor, whether it was through backpacking, whether it was through running, whatever it was just from being outside. I think it's good for your mental health and everything.
And this last question,
It's a bit of a cliche.
And it's cliche, but we always get really, really interesting answers from it. So we ask everybody.
And, what is the meaning of life to you?
What is the meaning of life? That's a good question. You guys asked some good ones. The meaning of life. Well, I think I still ask myself that one quite a bit, to be honest. I don't know if we ever truly answer that. I don't necessarily think it's what we've always been told, or the stories we've been told as to what the meaning of life is. I mean, people are free to believe whatever they want to and all. I don't consider myself a religious man. Mm-hmm. So I think that happiness and, spending time with the people you love, spending time doing the things you love, I think that's true. I don't know if you say the meaning of life or what you would say. You even stumped me on this one. That's a good question, though. But at the end of the day, doing what you love, doing it with the people you love, that's my meaning of life. That's what gets me through life.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Well, Mr. Tilley, it's been an honor to have you on today. We both enjoyed it immensely.
Yeah, this is great.
You.
One of my favorite
Hey,
interviews.
it's been a great time. I appreciate you guys for having me.
Thank you.